You're listening to Southern Fried Sports with Travis Reier on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa. 100.9 Tuscaloosa Sports Update.
With your Tide Sports Update, I'm Jacob Harrison. To help mitigate the losses that SEC athletic institutions have suffered during the COVID-19 pandemic, the SEC has announced a $23 million distribution in supplemental revenue to its 14 schools. And Alabama basketball will be featured in a Thanksgiving Invitational in Orlando, Florida next season alongside Kansas, Dayton, Iona, Miami, Belmont, Drake, and North Texas. College football fans and players both want full stadiums this fall. That's what head coach Nick Saban said in a PSA encouraging Crimson Tide fans to get their COVID-19 vaccines. Tonight, the Tuscaloosa Academy Knights will host Banks Academy and Escambia Academy for a spring jamboree. JV play begins at 5 p.m. and varsity begins at 6 p.m.
For more details on these stories and more, check out the Tide 100.9 website or download the free Tide 100.9 app. This is Southern Fried Sports with Bama Online senior analyst Travis Reier on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Make it through this year, I think I'm gonna put this bottle down. I guess as time goes on, I'll grow to miss it less than I will now. And I think I'm gonna tell her that I'm gonna go away for a while, till I can get this demon out.
It is 11 a.m. on a Thursday morning. It is time once again for Southern Fried Sports on your home for University of Alabama Athletics, Tide 100.9 FM. Travis Reier, senior analyst for BamaOnline.com, part of the 247sports.com network with you weekday mornings from 11 a.m. until noon. The show, as always, brought to you by Peterbrook Chocolatier, 1530 McFarland Boulevard North in the Indian Hills section of Tuscaloosa, and it is officially frozen chocolate dipped banana season out there at Peterbrook Chocolatier. Can't make it to say Disney World for the weekend. One of the lasting impressions from those youthful trips down to see the rat, you call him the rat when you get older, Mickey Mouse, because he has a way of taking your cheese. You know what I mean? Going to Disney World as a kid, those frozen chocolate dip bananas when we'd go to Disney. Always look forward to those. Well, they got those for you right now at Peterbrook Chocolatier, 1530 McFarland Boulevard North. Joined on the program by the executive producer of SFS, Jacob Harrison. And together, we combine to form the 60-bit band of Sports Talk Radio. What about a chocolate-dipped frozen banana on this Thursday morning, Jacob? How does that strike you?
You know, I don't think I've had one of those in at least 20 years.
Was it Disney?
But it doesn't sound
Disney?
No, I never got one at Disney. I think it was, just I don't know, but yeah, I would be interested in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. And you can get accessories with those chocolate dipped frozen bananas. They'll put a few sprinkles on there for you. They got the toppings to go with those frozen chocolate dipped bananas there at Peterbrook. You know, I feel like I deserve one, Jacob. I've already done the workout this morning. I put Stan the Stent through his workout. He seems to have come through it pretty well. I know you are dying for a pull-up update after last Friday's program, where we made that a focal point of that program, the pull-up, and how it is it takes on villain status, really, at the gym. I am up to, Jacob, since you asked, right? You did ask for this.
I did.
Okay. All right. I'm up to 10 assisted pull-ups in succession, 10 in a row. Now, those are assisted, okay? I'm going to go ahead and admit that. But that is up from 7 last Friday, and that's 2 sets of 10. So I knew you wanted to know that. I knew the listeners were really on the edges of their seats to get that information. But that's kind of in the morning for yours truly. Also, I'm immersed in PGA Championship coverage right now. I'm watching the pro golf on the internet because ESPN getting the boys and girls with this first round coverage from Kiowa Island, the Ocean Course, the Pete Dye Classic over there in the Charleston area, the opening round of the 2021 PGA Championship, ESPN coming at you for those ESPN Plus bucks, because that's about the only way you can watch the coverage this morning. And they've got those feature groups out early on day one. So you've got Rory, you've got JT, you've got Brooks Koepka playing together. You've got Bryson DeChambeau out on the course early. So they're making some more money at the Worldwide Leader, getting those signups for ESPN Plus so you can watch the coverage. I'm just about cordless at this point. Just about wireless, I guess it is. I've cut the cord. That's how they refer to that these days. I'm just about there, Jacob. I'm thinking YouTube television with ESPN Plus, and then a few add-ons maybe. Where are you at with the cable, Jacob? Are you still cabled up? Are you wireless? What are you looking like?
I have cable through Xfinity, but I use that to stream everything else digitally. Yeah. And I stick with Netflix and Disney Plus for the most part anyway. So that and ESPN Plus. So thanks to the Rat again. I think that's a perfect nickname for him.
I think I first heard coin that phrase. It was probably the ever so sentimental Pops. Probably when I was a kid, refer to Mickey Mouse. Probably when I was 7 or 8 as the Rat. Yeah, but
wise beyond his years at that point. Then.
Pop doesn't like to separate himself from the cash, and the Rat had a way of getting his cheese back in the day. Growing up in Northeast Florida, we'd make that little 2.5 hour drive down there, and off the money would come from Pops. I don't think he enjoyed that. 205-342-9904. That is the Peterbrook Chocolatier studio line. If you'd like to jump on board with us on a Thursday morning, you are more than welcome to do so. We have got a special guest coming up, by the way, in the very next segment, with NCAA regional play getting underway. And, of course, Tuscaloosa being home to one of those regionals again. It's just an every year occurrence, right? It took a pandemic, for crying out loud, to sort of break the Alabama streak or the Alabama dominance as a staple in the regional round as a host. But Michelle Smith, you've seen Michelle. She does an outstanding job on ESPN's coverage of college softball. Also, by the way, just a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, Michelle Smith, former standout at Oklahoma State. You hear her on ESPN. She's been to Rhodes Stadium many, many times. We're going to get Michelle Smith's thoughts on softball regional play. Michelle tells me she is in Gainesville this weekend. She'll be at the Gainesville Regional, covering Florida and the 4 teams down there, but certainly a wealth of knowledge and insight when it comes to Michelle Smith. So we look forward to talking to her coming up in about 7 or 8 minutes or so. You also, of course, big series in Tuscaloosa tonight on the baseball diamond as Alabama welcomes the Bullies of Mississippi State. The maroon and white from MSU making that short drive over 82 for a 3-game series that gets underway at 6 p.m. First pitch set for 6 p.m. this evening at the Joe. Alabama at 12-14 in the league could really stand to win a series at home here to cap the regular season. We'll see how it goes. Very motivated Mississippi State team, as we've talked about throughout the week, after dropping 2 of 3 at Dudy Noble Field last week of all places to the league's worst team in Missouri. So Mississippi State still in the hunt for that SEC regular season crown, still right there in the hunt where the SEC West is concerned. Kind of become a rival there in the West with Arkansas and Mississippi State. LSU typically in that mix, not so much this year for the Tigers, but Alabama playing for its postseason life coming up this weekend in Tuscaloosa. 205-342-9904. 9904. We'll probably get into some football talk, I'm sure, at some point in the program, working on those position diaries for BamaOnline.com. I'm into the interior offensive line. Had the wide receiver position for you yesterday at BOL. The position diary, what we do is throughout the course of the offseason and leading up to the season, we take you from January, February, and then we update position by position. Then we get post-spring, say April, May, maybe a little bit into next month as we head down the backstretch of the month of May now. And we go pre-spring, post-spring, early stages of fall camp. We sort of track positions almost quarterly, I guess you could say, there at BamaOnline.com. That's what we're doing post-spring right now. And again, we just did the wide receiver position, asking the question as we have here, where is the explosiveness going to come from with Devontae Smith moving on, with Jalen Waddle moving on? Yes, John Mechie can certainly give you some of that, as we've seen, mostly during the 2020 season. But who's going to be the other guy or guys that help you maintain that explosiveness that you've grown accustomed to at the wide receiver position? I really do think, as much as there's going to be questions about Bryce Young in his first year as the starter at Alabama, I think his skill set is going to help facilitate some explosive plays via extended plays. And he's not a guy who extends plays primarily for the sake of running the football. Bryce Young has shown you he'll extend plays to get himself in position, like he did on the explosive to Roydell Williams early in the spring game, so he can make throws down the field. I think that's going to help get some guys maybe open on some plays where it gets off script a little bit. It's not going to have to be, I guess I'm saying, as much on script as perhaps it's been the last 3 years with Bryce Young behind center. I'll tell you another place where Bryce Young's going to help you. And this ties into looking at the interior offensive line here in the last day or so for Alabama for the 2021 season. He can do some things subtly. You know, we talked a lot about Mac Jones in that regard, not necessarily Michael Vick by any means, but Mac could navigate a pocket instinctively and then still, get himself in a good spot to deliver the football down the field. Bryce Young can do that too. Go back and watch the spring game and watch the touchdown pass to Cam Latu, and you've got Damian George working at right guard, and he gets beat on a slanting, quick up the field pass rush by early enrollee Monkel Goodwine. And Bryce sort of just very subtle, and he makes, what he does is on the play, he makes Damian George right, because Damian George gets beat off the snap, but to Damian George's credit, he stays with it and sort of just gets enough on Goodwine that allows Bryce Young, who is instinctive in the pocket, to just take that slight right step up into the pocket. And then he delivers a nice strike to Cameron Latu. He had a bust on the back end of the Alabama secondary, so that helped. But just some examples of maybe how Bryce Young's going to help in that regard in a couple different ways. Real quick, let's go to Corey on the Peterbrook Chocolatier studio line. We got Michelle Smith coming up here in just a minute or two. Corey, how you doing?
Hey, Travis, how you doing this morning?
Good, man.
Did you say you're gonna have Michelle Smith on?
Yep, we're going to her in just a couple of minutes here. What do you got?
I have a question I would like for you to ask her, if you don't mind.
I got you. What do you got?
Can you ask her how long can Montana Fouts go in this tournament? Like, 'cause I think it takes 10 games at minimum to win the national title. Like how much support does she need? Like from a Lexi Kilfor or a Crystal Goodwin? Because I understand in today's softball, you can't just win with one pitcher. She's a former pitcher herself.
That's right.
Like how long can Montana Fouts really go in this tournament before she needs help and from behind her, in her opinion?
I will definitely, we will ask her that. No doubt about it.
Because wouldn't you agree she can't just win 10 games all by herself.
Well, I think the biggest problem, is you look at a potential trip to Oklahoma City, and let's say you lose early in OKC, and now you're trying to throw her all the way back up the hill. And that's where I would think, against elite competition especially, that could be really, really tough. But we'll ask her that and a few other things coming up here in just a minute, Corey.
Yeah, and this Clemson team, I know you'll get into that with her, but this Clemson team is no joke, and Valerie Cagle's the real deal, and I know that'll probably be a Fouts versus Cagle matchup, and I guess you'll discuss the matchups in there, but and 100% capacity and all that, but this will be a good region, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. And we'll talk to Michelle about that and a whole lot more coming up in just a minute. Thanks, Corey.
Good talk to you, Travis. Roll Tide.
There he goes, Corey checking in. He's fired up for that Tuscaloosa Regional cranking up tomorrow there at Rhodes Stadium. Going to talk with Michelle Smith, the ESPN two-time Olympic gold medalist, when Southern Fried Sports returns on Tide 100.9 FM right after this.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A warm afternoon, partly to mostly sunny, the high 85. For tonight, fair with the low at 63. Heat levels continue to rise tomorrow and Saturday. The sky sunny both days. The high tomorrow, 88. The high Saturday, 91. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 79 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Tide 100.9. For more coverage of Alabama football, visit us at Tide100.9.com or download the free Tide 100.9 app.
The Crimson Tide will not be denied.
If I could turn back time, if I could find a way, I'd take back those words that hurt you, and you'd stay. I don't know why I did the things I did. I don't know why I said the things I said. Pride's like a knife, it can cut deep inside. Words are like weapons, they wound sometimes.
Back with more of a Thursday edition of Southern Fried Sports right here on Tide 100.9 FM. Travis Reier, senior analyst for BamaOnline.com, with you each and every weekday morning from 11 a.m. until noon. It's a real treat now to go to the Peterbrook Chocolatier studio line and check in with a two-time gold medalist. And, of course, you've heard and seen Michelle Smith on ESPN's tremendous softball coverage. Of course you have. Now we talk with Michelle right now. Michelle, how are you?
I'm good. Travis, how are you doing? I'm glad to be with you.
We are great, and I understand that you are going to be in SEC country this weekend, but it won't be Tuscaloosa.
That is correct. I'm going to be calling the Gainesville Regional. Looking forward to that. I'm actually looking forward to watching everything as much as I can. One eye on the field and one eye on how everybody else is doing.
I know, right? Laptops, televisions, telephones, tablets, you name it. You're going to have the coverage just about every way you can consume it. I know I'm going to be very much the same way, and want to obviously talk to you about this Tuscaloosa Regional, and starting with Alabama specifically, just a team that really a month and a half ago just continued to be hit with a lot of adversity via injuries, also has dealt with some COVID protocol situations, and just your thoughts on how this team has not only managed that, but has been dominant in winning 13 games in a row, and here most recently the SEC tournament.
Yeah, just resiliency. I love the fact that head coach Patrick Murphy always trains a really complete team, always has people in line ready to go should someone go down with an injury. And obviously that happened multiple times this year. They had the COVID issue, as you mentioned, that they had to get through. It's just a team that knows how to perform. High level of expectation, and I love the way that the coaching staff, Coach Murphy basically said, we're going to run the table. After that loss, those 2 losses to Florida, they said, that's it. We're going to run the table. We're going to win every game from here on out. And they have. They've won those 13 games. Now, I'm assuming that Coach Murphy's hoping that his table's another, let's say, 10 feet long for 10 more wins here in the postseason. But, this is a team that's figured themselves out and recreated themselves. Watching Bailey Hemphill go after the home run record, she struggled for a bit, and then how about her timing? She breaks out at home at the SEC tournament. But this is a team that has figured out if we need to go station to station, we use our speed. They've got great arms in the circle. And, there's just a way that they have this innate ability to be able to win and are just very resilient.
You're a former world-class player, world-class pitcher, so your perspective on Montana Fouts, we are excited to get because, to us, it's been dominant. There's no doubt about it. But could you give us some perspective on what you think she's done and how she goes about doing it when you look at some of the all-time greats, maybe Monica Abbott of Tennessee and some of the pitchers from the past that have just been so dominant at her spot?
Yeah, well, obviously she's got the right build and the right makeup for it. She's tall, she's hungry, she likes to be very exact about her pitches, her mentality, and she works hard. She's got a great dad that will catch her and work with her, great pitching staff that will, great pitching coach that will work with her. And I think the biggest thing about Montana Fouts is that she's got tools, but she's so young yet, and we just have to sometimes remind ourselves that she's young, she's going to keep developing, she needs to keep developing, she's going to have to learn new pitches, keep the ball on the edges, and I think if she can really develop an out pitch, so an outside pitch to lefties into righties, mostly running away from lefties, and then an off-speed pitch that she can use a little bit more, as unstoppable as she is now, she will truly be unstoppable and hard to beat in the future. But she's just a great kid right now, and I think that's the thing that I'm most excited about.
Obviously, this Alabama team with Lexi Kilfoyle pretty much out for an extended stretch here, and Crystal Goodman has been solid, is sort of that next starter up. But as we saw in the SEC tournament, this team goes essentially as far as it seems Montana Fouts can pitch it. It's a good team. Don't get me wrong. You said it. The other players have stepped up. Bailey Hemphill is a superstar. But just looking at pitching in today's game, is it, and one of our callers, Corey, asked us to touch on this with you, how realistic is it to think that Alabama can just be exclusive with Montana Fouts throughout the postseason? Does a second pitcher need to emerge at least in a complementary type role?
Obviously it would be helpful. And if it's not a pitcher in the circle, then the other staff member that needs to emerge is going to be the offense and putting up a lot of runs for Montana. So to me, that's really going to be the advantage of the teams that maybe have one arm, is the ones that can put a lot of runs up on the board. And so that offense almost becomes part of their defense. And I think if you look at Crystal Goodman and Lexi Kilfoyle, if they can even just give a couple of innings, it's going to help Montana out. But then the conundrum starts of, if you've got other pitchers in the circle, how warm does Montana have to be? Because you don't want her wearing herself out in bullpens, right? So it's that decision of, is she going to maybe actually even do less pitching in the circle than she would in the bullpen, trying to stay warm in case she has to go in? I think if Alabama stays in the winner's bracket, if a Washington with only a Gabby Plain stays in the winner's bracket, I think it makes your push a lot deeper into the postseason, obviously through regionals, super regionals, and into the Women's College World Series. And that's really what teams should focus on. If you have an ace and they're healthy, that's the big thing. If they're healthy and then you have an offense that's putting runs up on the board, I think you could go through with one arm.
And that kind of leads into early round play. You're going to see it with Florida this weekend, and I think the Gators are hosting South Florida in their opening round game in Gainesville. But in Tuscaloosa, you're going to have Alabama State, Alabama tomorrow evening. And coaches are different, as we know, and how they go about laying out pitching. And I think there's a lot of people that try to draw too many correlations maybe between other sports and softball. But how would you foresee those type of matchups? And in knowing the pitching situation at, say, Alabama, do you just drop the hammer even against Alabama State when Montana fouts in game one, or are you open to maybe one of your other pitchers going in that first game and maybe, keeping Montana a little bit fresh until you're supposed to get to that second round, I guess?
Yeah, those are always tough questions. But, the biggest key to regionals is you have to win game one. And so I almost think you have to use Montana and hope that your offense can put some big numbers up, and maybe it's a 5-inning game. The other thing that I think is an advantage for Coach Murphy and for Alabama is the fact that you obviously you're going to have Clemson in game two. Montana throws better as she goes along, and we've seen her do that not just this weekend at the SEC tournament, but in an SEC play. She's typically just as strong or stronger in game 3 of the series as she was in game 1 of the series. And we just saw her at the SEC tournament for 3 days consecutively. So I think she's in great shape. I think she has the ability to do it. I do think, though, the more the offense and the defense can help her out and try to make shorten games and make as many plays as possible, it will be an advantage the longer we go into the tournament.
Talking with Michelle Smith, 2-time Olympic gold medalist, and, of course, top analyst for ESPN coverage of college softball. Michelle, we heard from the NCAA yesterday going to allow for 100% capacity in the softball regionals and baseball postseason play, and now that's going to be tied into local and state guidelines with the capacity hike. I guess that potentially takes places like Road Stadium and Katie Seashell Presley Stadium, where you're going to be, in places like that, to a level we just haven't experienced here in a couple of years.
Yeah, it's going to be so exciting, and it's going to be so exciting for the players and the teams. I'm just so happy that we're at this point, and the public still needs to be very diligent, and hopefully people are getting their vaccines if they're if that's truly what they believe in, and I know that I'm good to go, so I hope that people just continue to embrace that we've come a long way, and we still have a long way to go, but I'm so happy that we're at the point where people realize that being outside and being able to gather, it is okay, and we can be confident in that. So I was doing cartwheels, not figuratively, not
Absolutely.
literally. Yesterday when I heard that news, it's great news for baseball and softball.
As we look at this field as a whole, and there's Oklahoma at 45-2 as the number 1 seed, have we reached a point in terms of parity in college softball where it's not Oklahoma in the field? As great as Oklahoma is, obviously you still have Alabama as a 3 seed. The Pac-12 presence in general, UCLA, Arizona. Arizona State is a top 16 seed. Arizona is 11. Washington still prominent in the field from the Pac-12. How do you view this thing playing out just from the very early stages? Do you have to almost pick Oklahoma, or do you think this thing could go a number of different ways?
I think it could go a number of different ways. I do think Oklahoma is the team to beat because of their offense. And, it's interesting because they really haven't even gone into a little bit of a slump. Even great offenses typically at some point won't always be firing at all cylinders. And that has not happened to that team this year, which, for Patty Gasso and company, they're obviously hoping it doesn't show up now. I think that they've got a tough regional, and then if they advance through and Washington advance through, that's an interesting super regional. But, I think every team has to take care of business, and anyone can beat anyone on any given day. I think that maybe the 8 teams that do arrive in Oklahoma City will be, it might be the toughest field of 8 teams ever getting there, just based on how much talent we do have throughout the country. But, I do really feel like Washington could give Oklahoma everything that they can handle in a super regional tournament when you've got a Gabby Plain in the circle. Whoever faces Oklahoma is going to have to be fearless. You cannot go into that game afraid of their offense, because the second you do that, you throw pitches over the plate, you get weak in the arm, bad mistakes happen, free passes happen, and that's how Oklahoma will capitalize. They're just really good at making adjustments. They have a very unique hitting style where they're inside out the ball quite a bit, even when they're stepping way in the bucket. They just allow the ball to travel deep into the zone. So it is going to be very, very interesting, but I do feel like Oklahoma's going to have to take care of business. They're going to have to use that offense because their pitching is good, but it's not great.
As we let you go here, Michelle, I know I'm excited. I know you're very excited about, I guess it's bittersweet, though, the return of softball in the Olympics for Japan this summer. Obviously, the popularity of the sport with the host nation there, a big part of this. But as I said, I guess bittersweet in a way, in that it's apparently a one-time return for now, at least, for softball at the Olympic level.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that we won't be in Paris in 2024. Hopefully we'll be back, obviously, on the program in 2028 in LA. But, the sport continues to grow around the world. It continues to get stronger around the world. And that's the thing that we need to continue to focus on as a sport, educate the IOC and the European members that this is a valid sport that young girls play all around the world, and therefore it needs to be embraced. But yeah, it is disappointing on many different levels. We should have never been out of the Olympics in the first place, and that's a whole nother political conversation that we could have to talk hours about. But yeah, we're in for Tokyo. It's been a long wait. It's been a hard year with COVID and everything but I'm just excited to see those athletes step on the field, represent their countries. There's going to be 6 strong teams, and finally back getting the recognition at the world stage that the sport deserves.
Absolutely. Michelle, we can't thank you enough for joining us on the program. Really enjoy you, Beth, the rest of the great coverage there at ESPN. Have a great call down in Gainesville, and hopefully we'll connect again soon.
I look forward to it, and good luck to the Tide this weekend. Thanks so much, Travis.
There she goes, Michelle Smith, 2-time Olympic gold medalist, outstanding player collegiately at Oklahoma State. We really appreciate Michelle breaking down some college softball with us on a Thursday edition of Southern Fried Sports. Back with more of the show right after this.
You're listening to Southern Fried Sports with BamaOnline.com senior analyst Travis Reier on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
They say we're young and we don't know. We won't find out till we grow. Well, I don't know if all that's true, 'cause you got me, baby, I got you.
Back with more of a Thursday edition of Southern Fried Sports right here on Tide 100.9 FM. Travis Reier, senior analyst for BamaOnline.com with you weekday mornings from 11 a.m. until noon. Thanks again to Michelle Smith. Outstanding commentary on college softball from the 2-time Olympic gold medalist. And of course, one of the central figures in the coverage of the sport from ESPN. PGA Championship underway over at Kiowa Island in the Charleston, South Carolina area. The Ocean Course. Ocean Course playing pretty tough, man. Our boy JT, he's +3 through 12. He started on the back nine. He, Roars, and Koepka. Justin Thomas, Rory McIlroy, Brooks Koepka playing in a feature group. And started out well enough for JT. He's 1 under through his first 7 holes. Then he goes bogey on 17, the par 3. And then follows up with a double on the very difficult par 4 18th hole there at Kiowa Island. playing dead into the wind, 18 today. Watching some of the coverage earlier, you got people, you got these big pros, not DeChambeau. DeChambeau was able to get in with an iron on his approach. But you had a lot of dudes on 18 for their second shot on a par 4 hitting 3-woods back into that wind. And wayward tee shot on number 18 for JT. Got a little greedy with that second, trying to lay it up from a bunker. Didn't work out so well. And so he plays his 8th and 9th holes of the round in 3 over to drop to 2 over for the day. And then on his back 9 on the par 5 second hole, a bogey on the par 5 there. That's never good. Got to take advantage of the par 5s. He's 1 over through 3 par 5s so far in his round. And he is currently playing the par 4 fourth, and been a little bit left with the tee shots today, JT. I don't think it's been the putting as much. He went into the event really struggling with the short stick, but watching him earlier, he had the lefts going early. He was able to sort of overcome that, played a brilliant tee shot on the par 3 14th, 238 yards, and ended up making a 20-footer for birdie there. So it was, again, a promising start for JT. Still a lot of golf to go, and as we said, nobody's out there. There's no rabbits this morning in the first round of the PGA Championship. And you can only imagine with the wind blowing like it was earlier, what's it going to be like for that afternoon wave? Martin Laird, currently at 3 under through 15, tied for the lead, along with Keegan Bradley and Englishman Tom Lewis. So a 3-way tie right now for the top spot in the opening round of the 2021 PGA Championship. Alban Tiger, Jason Duffner up there at -2 in a tie for 4th. Duffner, of course, a former PGA champion. Keegan Bradley. Wasn't it Duffner and Bradley in a playoff at Atlanta Athletic Club one year? That senior memory gets to me from time to time. But I believe that was the case several years ago. Colin Morikawa, your defending champion with the PGA Championship. He's 2 under through 12. Golf course playing difficult. You knew it was going to be the case. Ricky Fowler, a pretty good story early. He's obviously had his struggles playing in the event with a special invite. Ricky Fowler 1 under through 17. Anything in red figures today is probably going to have you top 20 for sure. You're going to be top 20 for sure if you're in red figures, because you get to even par and 1 over, and Rory struggling in his own right. Give Brooks Koepka a lot of credit. He doubled his first hole and has gotten it back to even par for the day. So he's sort of grinding it out. Rory at +2 in that group with JT playing the 14th hole. Bryson DeChambeau, defending U.S. Open champion, at +2 through 12. And again, this is an event that has been moved from the back end of the major championship schedule to the number 2 spot there between the Masters and the U.S. Open. And it's also a spot where the Players sat for a number of years. The Players, or the TPC as it was called in my youth, that was forever an early season event. It was March, and then it moved to May. And now the PGA has moved to May, and the TPC, or the Players, has moved back to March. I think it's a win for both those tournaments, making the moves. And you think about when the PGA Championship used to be contested late in the schedule. You're getting into football season. You were getting into the stretch run for, say, baseball. Got swallowed up a little bit. And it's obviously the 4th major anyway. But better chance to be more prominent in the eyes of sports fans, I think, playing it in May. Obviously, you get into some maybe NBA playoff talk. How about LeBron last night? Wasn't that all of 30-foot, that heave for three to get the Lakers past the Golden State Warriors in that play-in win last night? Wow. Hell of a shot. But I like the PGA up at this point. I think for the folks in Jacksonville, in that area of Northeast Florida, I think they like the players in March a little more comfortable in terms of weather. Now, you play that tournament, again, in Northeast Florida in mid-May, you don't know what you're going to get. Now, I think this year you would have worked out just fine in terms of the weather. But there are years in that Jacksonville area where it can get into the 90s real quick in the month of May. So probably a win, I would say, for both those events in making those moves on the golf calendar. Going to take another break. When we come back, some Crimson Tide football talk, among other things, when Southern Fried Sports returns here on Tide 100.9 FM right after this.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A warm afternoon, partly to mostly sunny, the high 85. For tonight, fair with the low at 63. Heat levels continue to rise tomorrow and Saturday. The sky sunny both days. The high tomorrow 88, the high Saturday 91. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 79 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
The flagship station for Alabama Crimson Tide football.
Alabama touchdown.
Only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
I was born in the wagon of a traveling show. My mama used to dance for the money they'd throw. Papa would do whatever he could. Preach a little gospel. Sell a couple bottles of Dr. Good. GMC's tramps and thieves. We'd hear it from the people of the town. They'd call us GMC's tramps and thieves. But every night all the men would come around and lay their money down. Picked up a boy just south of Mobile, gave him a ride, filled him with a hot meal. I was 16, he was 21. Rode with us to Memphis, and Papa would have shot him if he knew what he'd done. GMC's tramps and thieves, we'd hear it from the people of the town. They'd call us GMC's tramps and thieves. But every night all the men would come around and lay their money down. I never had schooling, but it taught me well with its smooth southern style. 3 months later, I'm a gal in trouble, and I have
Today
to
we
feed
celebrate
him.
the catalog of Sherilyn Sarkeesian. Born on this day in 1946. I am a true Southern gentleman, so I will not tell you what that comes out to in terms of her age. I'll let you try to figure that out. But when I see the name Sarkeesian for Cher, you know what I immediately begin to think, right, Jacob Harrison?
Yeah!
Any relation to Steve? And I did my research because I know that's the type of information, Jacob, that folks come to this program for. It's where we really fill the void, right? And based on what I could sort of Google and find, he is not related. Steve Sarkeesian and Cher not related. So now you can go about your day and clear thought, clarity of mind on this Thursday. So something else we're seeing here in the sports world here in the last little bit is this continued buzz that Julio Jones could be on his way out in Atlanta. According to Jeff Schultz of The Athletic, the Falcons would like to trade Julio Jones. And among the potential suitors that Schultz mentions, the Ravens, the Niners, the Patriots, the Colts, the Chargers, and the Tennessee Titans. Understanding, Jacob Harrison, that your Steelers are not in that mix, which of those teams would you like to see Julio Jones end up with? I'm going to guess that we can erase the Ravens from your list because that would be a divisional deal there.
Yeah, it sure is LA Baltimore.
So where would you like to see Julio if it's that mix of teams?
I like the idea of the not the Panthers, the Patriots and the Titans. The Patriots just because they've got all those big tight end weapons, and to throw him in there with Cam Newton for now and Mac Jones later, I think that would pay off really, really well. And Bill Belichick's not above making a trade like that to bolster his team. I think they want to win right now too. They don't want to, have to deal with a rebuild. But the Titans, even though they have a much harder time with their cap situation, a play like that, pair him up with A.J. Brown, you should be able to pull the most that you can out of Ryan Tannehill, and hopefully that'll get you over that hump to put more points on the board against a team like Kansas City and push you into a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Titans, when I think about teams that are close and could be impacted to the point with the addition of Julio of perhaps getting over the chief hump in the AFC, they would be that team. Derrick Henry, by the way, at running back. That wouldn't be a bad thought, would it?
Who about 20 minutes ago tweeted out his thoughts on that situation. He's very much in favor of it.
Yeah, Derrick seemed he seemed very much a proponent of the idea of Julio Jones moving to Nashville. You always think quarterbacks in situations like this, obviously, when you're talking about a player of Julio's stature at the wide receiver position. So Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, yeah, that would be nice. The Niners are interesting. The Niners and the Patriots are interesting in this for me, Jacob, because both those teams, and you said it with the Patriots, Bill Belichick's not interested in a 2 or 3 year type rebuild. I mean, they still feel like they're playoff relevant at least, even in the post-Tom Brady era. The Niners are built to win right now, but they went quarterback very early in their own right, earlier than even the Patriots. So I guess you could say you could have your cake and eat it too with Julio. You could plug him in there and say San Francisco with Jimmy G, assuming Jimmy G is still going to be the guy to start the season. And then if that doesn't work the way you like, then you got a security blanket for a young quarterback in Trey Lance if you try to go with him. Same thing for Mac Jones in New England. If it doesn't work, if it's just not going to be a tenable situation with Cam, that's a nice guy to go along with Hunter Henry at the tight end position, who you brought in the offseason. So you're adding some more weapons around that quarterback position, and it either could help you get back to where you want to be in terms of playoff relevancy, or it helps you with perhaps a new quarterback situation and a young quarterback situation at that. 205-342-9904. That is the Peterbrook Chocolatier studio line. If you'd like to check in with us in the moments we have left in today's program, you are more than welcome to do so. It's been a tough one today because, I'm trying to watch this PGA Championship golf on the phone, and I got to do this radio show. It's kind of interrupting things with the golf. But we've done our best today. Michelle Smith was a lot of fun having her on, talking some softball earlier. And again, obviously a big baseball series at the Joe starting tonight with Mississippi State in Tuscaloosa. So if you like the Diamonds, this is the weekend for you in West Central Alabama. You still have the high school baseball going on. And not just that, you've got the high school football spring games and jamborees. I believe a big one, Northridge, our Jags taking on ACI. I've always had to kind of correct people on the pronunciation of that one. It's not ACA, it's ACI. You got to get it right. Kind of like Mountain Brook. You got to, and TI, you got to get those right. You'll get corrected on that in Birmingham and in Tuscaloosa. But you've got spring football coming to a head. So we'll have our eyes and ears open for that this weekend as well, and the Atlanta Braves. Can they get something going here with the Buccos over the weekend? Ronald Acuna. Many, many times before, we've said it on this program, the most club-friendly contract in all of professional sports. Ronald Acuna with the walk-off homer last night in Atlanta to put the Braves past those first place New York Mets there at Truist Park. That's going to do it for a Thursday edition of Southern Fried Sports. Thanks again to Michelle Smith. Thanks to Jacob Harrison for producing the program. It is a Thursday, so you know what that means for the lunch whistle, right? At Heat Pizza Bar tonight, it is ladies' night, and the feeling is right. Get by Heat Pizza Bar, downtown Tuscaloosa at Government Plaza, the very best pizza you will put in your mouth anywhere. I've been to Gotham. I've been to Chicago. I've been out west. I've had California pizza. I've had Midwestern pizza. Had Southeastern pizza. Heat Pizza Bar, you're not going to beat it. Downtown Tuscaloosa at Government Plaza. Until 11 a.m. on Friday. Have a great rest of your Thursday, everybody.
Their money down. GMC's tramps and thieves. We hear it from the people of the town. They call us GMC's tramps and thieves. But every night all the men would come around and lay their money down.